This conference will now be recorded.
All right, guys, welcome to the workshop, Trading Psychology During COVID. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing here. So as most of you know, if any of my students, anyone that's really learned from me, I'm not a big PowerPoint guy. So make sure that you have a pen and pencil, whatever, and pad to take notes on, because I'm going to go over a few different things. Now, it's funny because I'm sitting here with just a ton of notes. So more than likely what we're going to end up having to do is do a part 2, because no, there's not a chance with the amount of things that I have written down that we're going to be able to get through everything. But one promise that I always make you guys is I'm not going to here to sell you anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you content throughout the entire time. But what I want to talk about more than actually how to trade, because remember, a lot of people that are in here right now probably have different ways and different methodologies about going with their trading. Now, obviously at ATC, we focus specifically on tape reading and specifically on prints, but psychology has nothing to do with what your methodology is going to be. So let's start here. All right, what percentage of trading is trading and your trading methodology versus what percentage of trading do you think is all about psychology? Tape was fine here this morning, Liz. Didn't see any problems. 80-20, love it. So I wish I could show you my notes right now. So 80% is mental and 20% is your methodology. Now, but I want you to think about something real quick, is that if your methodology does not work, okay, then you're screwed. When it comes down to everything, I don't care that 20%, if you're not doing things correctly and you don't actually have a methodology that can be proven to give you a high percentage type trade, you're screwed in the first place. But the reason that most traders have a problem succeeding within their trading is really just the psychology that comes behind it. Because as we talked about, and anyone that was here for our workshop last time when we talked about tape reading, it's very easy to understand that controlling ask prints are going to pull a stock down and then make it go back up. But if we're wrong, because remember, 90% trade out of 10 times, how many times is it going to be wrong? It's guaranteed. 90% trade, how many times out of 10 is it going to be wrong? Well, obviously, easy math, once. So if you don't cut your losers, because mentally you think it's going to come back, or the psychology that comes behind people not wanting to lose, guess what? You're not going to be a successful trader anyway. But really what it comes down to is 80% mental and 20% of what your methodology is, as long as that methodology is proven. Obviously you need to have some type of percent on your trading. If I just threw up a bunch of indicators on my chart and tried to trade that way, guess what? It doesn't matter how good I am on the psychology aspect of things. What's going to end up happening is I'm going to fail anyway. So just something to kind of keep in mind. So one thing that I want you guys to understand is that psychology, okay, cannot be done on the fly. So at ATC, and anyone that's in here, any of my students know, is that anticipation is a huge part of trading. Without being able to anticipate what's going to happen, and obviously that's why the company's name is Ahead of the Charts, is because we like to, the way that we do things, we can see what's going to happen before the chart actually moves. Okay, but at the end of the day, yes, so obviously, it's definitely an edge that comes in, but one of the things is that we need to be able to anticipate how we're going to feel before it actually happens. Now, that's a weird thing to understand, but, just think about it right now, okay? If your birthday is coming up, can anyone here, let's say your birthday is 10 months away, okay? So in 10 months, you're going to have a birthday. Can anyone anticipate how they're going to feel the day before? So 10 months from now, your birthday is coming. How are you can you anticipate how you're going to feel the day before? Younger, more mentally hungover. But of course, we're probably going to be happy. How many people are, actually, I'm getting old, so it depends on how old you are in this. But let's talk about someone that's 18 years old, okay, or 20 years old. Okay, you can anticipate that you're going to be extremely happy the night before your birthday is coming, can't you? You're excited, okay? All of the, any type of, synonym that you want to put in that space is going to fit, because we know. So we can anticipate what's going to happen in that situation before it actually happens. And I'm not talking about we can anticipate what's going to happen on our 21st birthday, but we know the day before how we're actually going to feel. And it really works the same exact way with trading. All right. When the market is doing a billion things at once, any stock you look up, great volume, great trading, great volatility, great movement. Okay. Can anyone here anticipate exactly how mentally they're going to feel at that time period? Now, keep in mind, each person is going to be different, because I've built my entire career off of keeping my emotions under control. So when it happens to me, you guys, anyone that's been at our on-sites or anyone that's been in our classes, guys, what happens, okay, when 9:30 comes? Because you guys can tell I'm pretty high energy for the most part. What happens to my voice? What happens to my demeanor right before the market opens, right before we start classes? Yeah, my voice starts to calm down. I just become just with it. I literally, there's no excitement anymore, okay? But one of the things that we can anticipate, if there's a brand new trader out there, and once again, we're gonna get into like the COVID and everything, but if you're a brand new trader, what can you anticipate is going to happen the first day at 9:29? Brand new trader, what can we anticipate, can guarantee? Oh, that's it. Voice starts getting squeaky. Okay, you start getting jittery. Start, getting that energy that starts going through. What is that conducive to our trading? Is that going to help our trading in any way whatsoever? Doing something like that. So a lot of people don't understand this, but we know the psychology behind our brains. We know who we are, and this is one of the biggest things we're going to talk about today. Is the fact that you have to know who you are as a person. Some people calm, cool, collected all the time. Okay, their voice is very monotone. You talk, it's one of those people that you could literally listen to and go to sleep from. Okay, I remember one time I was trying to learn Forex trading, and I could have put it on to go to sleep every single night because the person was just but we know who we are as a person. So there's certain things that we can anticipate happening before they happen. Now, let me ask you something. Okay, if we can anticipate it happening before it happens, can we stop it before it happens? And I know I just use happens a whole lot, but bear with me. We can. So one of the biggest things about being able to control emotion is knowing what emotion is going to occur at certain times. Okay, and coming into this, the whole COVID, we've had some of the best trading. I personally have, and this has nothing to do with money or anything, I have my best days ever during this time period. Top 5 best days ever during this time period. Okay, but we're gonna get, and we'll get into that. But just because there's great trading does not mean we're ready for it. So let's start off with the first point that I want to make, okay, is that understand what phase you are in your trading. Now, if we don't understand the phase that we're in within our trading, can we in any way anticipate emotion and or control it? If we don't know what type of trader we are, can we anticipate emotion that's going to happen and or control it? Is it going to be possible? What do we think? Anything's possible. So difficult is the right word, but I would say no. For the most part, the larger percentage, there's no way in hell they're going to be able to control that. So let's talk about what the different types of traders there are and how mentally they need to think of themselves. So I broke it down into 3. Now at ATC, we do it 1 through 10, okay? That's really, a level 1 trader is basically brand new. A level 10, well, there's no such thing as a level 10 trader. So you could be 9.9, which is you're completely advanced. I literally have nothing left to teach you or tell you. You're going to learn everything through just screen time and patterns and so on and so forth. So beginner is the first. So a beginner trader, let's talk about it for a second. What is a beginner trader? In order to understand psychology, we have to know where we are. What is a beginner trader? So no experience. That's it. They don't know anything. Okay, the first day that you turn on your platform, for the first month, I'm going to tell you right now, you didn't know anything. Okay, I know I didn't know anything whatsoever. I had an idea of what's going on, but I don't know. So am I learning? Am I learning or am I making money in this phase? Dunning-Kruger, I like that, Blair. I'm a big psychology person. So it's not trying to survive. I'm going to tell you something right now. Okay, how many successful traders do you think came out of having lost their job with no money and then all of a sudden changed their entire life to be able to trade. How many people do you think have that story? Large percentage or small percentage? Not many at all. And the reason being is because the psychological aspect of it is that I need to make money right this second. Can you make money before you know how to trade? Can you make money before you learn how to trade? It's this simple. You could get lucky, but guess what? I've never met a trader that's been lucky consistently. So you might get lucky for a little bit, but guess what's going to end up happening? Luck runs out. There we go. So no. So you have to understand, if you're a beginner trader, okay, COVID has brought some of the best trading days over the past 10 years that I have seen. Okay, and obviously you can see the market dropping thousands of points. I mean, it was just crazy. It's brought some of the best trading I've ever seen in my life. So what happens is that if I don't understand that I'm a beginner and it's not time for me to make money yet, because a beginner, guys, what are we doing? What's your ultimate goal as a beginner trader? What are you trying to do here? Learn how this works. Learn how to actually trade. So we have to understand that. Now, what does 90% of people do as a beginner trader when great trading comes? What are they going to try to do? Get rich quick. And Andrew, that's a perfect way. We're going to touch on that too when we get a little bit later into this, but they're going to try to make money. And if you try to make money without knowing what you're doing, what is that called? Starts with a G, ends with an ambling. Hey, you're gambling. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what you're going to be doing. Okay, so we have to understand that. So in order to understand that, to anything, is that if the best trading over the past 10-year period comes in, but you're in your beginning stages, can we anticipate that you're going to want to make money? Of course we can. Everyone wants to make money. That's why you get into trading. Although, unfortunately, money has no part in trading, which that's a whole nother class. But we understand that it's not time to. So guess what? Is there going to be another huge thing that happens over the history of the stock market that gives us trading like COVID did? I'll put my life on it. Okay, it has to. Okay, there's going to be catalysts that happen within the world that are going to make for great trading. Okay, we're going to get into something in a little bit after we finish this part, and I'll kind of go a little bit further into that. But you have to understand, there's going to be more times. So if you're in the learning phase, okay, right now, when the psychology that you need to have is that it's not time for me to make money. It's time for me to get ready to be ready as a trader for the next time this happens. We have to understand that. If we don't get that, we end up gambling and we lose money. And then not only is COVID one of the worst things that's happened because none of us can leave our house, but at the same time, now we lost money. So now you're just adding on top of it. Is it going to be easy psychologically to get out of that once COVID's over and to start trading successfully? Of course not. It's not going to be easy at all. So what happens is that if we do that, we're literally setting ourselves up for failure. Now, there's people that are going to be able to get out of that and be able to reset their habits and do things the correct way, but the larger percentage is going to have a very hard time doing that. So you're literally making yourself fail before you even started. So understand that. Now, we're going to break it, like I said, into three things. Next one is novice. Okay, a novice, you're basically still learning, but you're trading as well. Now, during your novice stage, are you trading a lot of shares, or should you be trading a lot of shares during your novice stage? No, absolutely not. Because if you're trading a lot of shares, remember, okay, you could blow up an account in 2 seconds. I could blow up my account in 2 seconds if I wanted to, if I traded too many shares. Okay, but at the same time, we have to understand that now we're going to trade. So do not try to overdo it yet. So many people. And this is we're going to get into a little bit further, but it kind of helps my point right now. So many people want to get rich now. So one stock, one thing. How many rich traders do we know out there that have got rich off one trade? How many rich traders? And I could give you and I'm sure some of you probably will say a name, get lucky on a penny stock here and there. That's great. But how many rich traders? No, doesn't happen that way. How do you get rich trading? Being consistent or making a ton of money on one thing? Consistency. Consistency is everything within trading. So when we're a novice, unfortunately, it's almost like a curse because we know just a little bit too much to get ourselves into trouble. So we have to understand that going into a time period like that. If 100 stocks are all moving and all tradable at the same exact effect and the same exact point, we have to understand, do not overdo it. Because that's a huge problem when you know a little bit too much as you try to do it. It's part of being human, because when you start trading, you want to make money. So everyone wants to get rich quick. Okay, my account has not been built off one trade, not even close. There's been some great trades, don't get me wrong, but that didn't make me rich. I'm not saying I'm rich or whatever. It's not about the money part, but understand, if you're in that novice spot, this is not your time to get filthy rich. You get filthy rich over consistency throughout time. Because what happens to the person that doesn't really know how to trade that well, okay, and makes a ton of money on one trade? What ends up happening? Day in and day out, you'll see it over and over again. And I've taught a lot of people over my time. They give it back. They lose it all. It's almost like the people that win the lotto, and then 80% of them end up being broke afterwards. I remember watching this show one time. The guy won the lotto and bought like 8 planes and had them in their front yard. Well, as far as I know, you can only ride in one plane at a time. So you end up doing stupid things, because now you're up a whole bunch of money. Guess what? You don't need to learn anymore. You don't need to be able to, you don't need to work. You don't need to mentally get yourself focused on how to actually make this a successful career. It's literally just like going to a casino. Now you got a ton of money and you start throwing it in. You think you know better because you made one trade. How many traders, as we just spoke about, are long-term successful traders, have wealth? And I'm not talking about rich. Rich and wealth are completely two separate things. But how many traders have wealth from one trade? Does not exist. So understand that. And then if you're an advanced trader, go nuts. Be glad that you already put in the work before this incredible trading happened. But that's the thing, and that goes back to the beginner side of it, is, guess what? This has been some of the best trading I've ever seen in my life, but I've put years and years and years and years of work into being consistent to have this. And guess what? It was just a great opportunity. I can only trade what the market gives us. Anyone out there, you can only trade what the market gives you. You can't force the market to do something that it's not going to, but there will be other times. So if you're in the beginning stages of things, you have to understand psychologically that this isn't your time. It's that simple. And be okay with that. Because if you're not okay with that, what's going to end up happening is you're going to force things. You're going to try to put way too much into one thing because this person said this or this person said that. So the biggest part is that you have to understand what level you're at. Now, obviously, some people will fall, in between beginner and novice. Some people will fall in between novice and advanced. And then, you have to adjust accordingly from that. But know who you are, know where you're at within your trading. Because if you don't know that and you don't predetermine who you are before you start trading, what's the market going to make you do? The market has this unbelievable way. It's like put spells on people. Okay, but what's the market going to make you do if you don't know the type of trader you are? If you're a beginner trader and you don't accept that, what's going to happen? You're going to pay to find out. I love that. That's what's going to happen. You're going to pay to find out that you are a beginner trader and you didn't know what you were doing. All right, one of the things that, I was going to talk about a little bit later, but once this whole COVID thing happened and we started seeing the market drop by 1,000 points, I can't tell you, my phone would not stop ringing. Every person out of the woodworks, people, friends that I haven't spoken to in 5, 10 years, giving me phone calls. When should I buy? When should I buy? Well, guess what? Those persons, you're not going to make money that way. All right, which we'll get into in a second. All right, so another thing now, number 2 point that I want to make is that each big, and when I say big, extended, one great day is not going to change things. But when you have an extended period of time, okay, so one big extended opportunity in the market is going to come with characteristics that affect you mentally. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Each big extended opportunity in the market is going to come with characteristics that affect you mentally. So I have a few different ones, and I want you, I want you guys to interact. I want you to talk about it. So let's talk about the Great Depression. Being a trader during the Great Depression, Okay, let's say I'm sitting at my desk. It's a Great Depression, and I'm trading. Okay, and obviously this didn't exist during that time period, but I want you just to mentally start to think about it. Okay, what characteristics of the Great Depression could affect my trading or anyone's trading? Well, one thing we know is during the Great Depression, did people need money? Guilt, see that guilt for making money while people are suffering. So yeah, 100%. I can't disagree with you. I personally couldn't feel that because the market itself, guess what? It is a savage game. Okay. If you don't know what you're doing, people are going to take everything from you. But guess whose fault that is? If you go into something having no idea what you're doing and people take your money, not their problem. This is your book, not your hobby, so don't feel that. Exactly. 100%. If you bring a stick to a gunfight, that's your fault. But that 100%. So I could, but guess what? Psychology is psychology. You still might have that. We make this joke, and I hate to even say it like this, but sometimes, we'll play somebody that thinks they know what they're doing, and we know so much better than them in the chat room, and then we make this joke that, I hope their office is on the first floor. Now, yeah, it is a joke, but it's serious. But guess what? I can't feel bad for them. If you want to come swim with sharks, you know what? You better be willing to get bit. It's that simple. That's another huge part of psychology. But during the Great Depression, think about it. Okay, when you're, let's say you're, doing well in trading, all right, but then your family members are all that, they don't have their coupons to get bread, or they don't have their coupons to get gas, or they use them, their rations that come into that. There's a million mental things, guys. Are you going to be able to focus when in that situation, when your family is in that type of situation? Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. I know, we make a joke about it, but you know what? It's not a joke, but it is what it is. But so let's talk about another big thing. And I'm throwing out things, guys, that we can do. What about 9/11? Let's talk about 9/11 for a second. Okay, what happened with trading during 9/11? Some of you might not have been around. I personally wasn't trading during 9/11. I was in middle school. What happened with trading? Well, it got frozen for a couple, but guess what? They came right back. And it was some of the greatest volatility that people have seen. But at the same time, when you don't know where your family is, do you understand what I mean? Each individual thing is going to affect people. Now let's talk about COVID, because the other two examples that I gave you are more along the lines of individuals. But right now with COVID, we're all in the same exact spot. How many people here haven't left their house in a week? Anybody? I literally, in the past month, I go out and get food, which we don't really need too much. So I don't really go anywhere. I go on drives, but my windows are closed. So that's pretty much. But yeah, besides food runs, mostly sitting inside. How many people have been basking in the sun in happiness lately? Cut off social events. Okay, back to, we talk about our 21st birthday. So if your 21st birthday is going to be during the COVID time, how can we anticipate psychologically you're going to feel the day before your 21st birthday? If your 21st birthday is tomorrow, yeah, see how it changes, but see how we can anticipate that change that's going to happen. So the only way, if we try to stop the psychology and the way that our brain works as something's happening, is it going to be easier or harder to do it then as it's actually happening, or is it going to be easier to know it's coming and prepare for it? Which one's easier? And I hate to use this as an example, but it really is the best example, and this is just going to help your trading. But it's almost like when somebody's known that, a loved one has been going and suffering for a longer period of time. For the most part, it actually is a little bit easier than if it just happens all at once. And it's the same type of deal. If we let our emotions hit us all at once, it's almost impossible to control them. But if you know those emotions are going to be coming, we can stop it. We can prepare for it. Because remember, emotions don't just get changed instantly. Okay, it takes building a habit to be able to change those actual emotions. So these are things that we have to understand. Okay, our brains start to be reprogrammed without us even knowing. Okay, how many people here feel a little bit more depressed than they did when they were allowed outside? Guess what? Every person should say yes. because that's how the human brain works. Okay, we are not, there's only so much that you could do through a Zoom meeting or a GoTo meeting, before it is what it is. So we have to understand, first of all, sunlight, vitamin D, it's called seasonal depression. It's an actual thing. Once the sun and the weather starts getting nicer, and obviously if you live in Florida or Cali or some parts of Cali and places like that where it's warm and beautiful all the time, God bless you. I wish I lived there. Besides for the fact if you're in Cali that you have to wake up 3 hours before 8:30. So 5:30 to me wouldn't be a great time period. But you understand Alaska, all these things, we understand that this is going to have a large effect. So one of the things, so like I said, our brains become reprogrammed without us even knowing it, but mental health, if 80% of our trading is actually mental health is the most important part of trading. Okay. Sometimes less is more. Don't be afraid to take a day off. I want you guys to understand something. Okay. The longer we're in this, the easier it seems. And I know that's a weird thing. And I didn't cite certain psychology books because I'm not, like I said, I didn't do a PowerPoint and I don't want to put them in there. But what we don't understand is that even though we don't see it happening to ourselves, mentally, we're changing during this time period. Our brain is in this kind of protective mode that tries to make us think that things are better than they are. But inside, just because we think it that way, inside, okay, this is probably one of the easiest times to become depressed. So what happens is we go out there, we see all of these social media things, okay, and I see them constantly. And you guys know personally, I don't use social media. I use it for ATC. Okay, but there's so many people that says, okay, well, you should be doing something at every second because you have nothing else to do and you should be, surpassing this and you should be, yes, you should be doing certain things, but guess what? Okay, do you think our mind needs, after just sitting in the house, not seeing our friends and family, do you think that at some point mentally we're going to need a break to not think about anything? Whether it be taking recordings or taking classes on learning how to trade, yes, we have to give ourselves that mental break. So during time periods like this, if you literally try to push yourself to learn 10 different new things, or let's say focus on learning a methodology of trading, you have to give yourself a break. Because it takes a lot less when you're out and about. One of the things that mentally that happens to us is that we kind of forget about the negatives. Okay, our brain is actually programmed to make sure that we're happy. Now, obviously, there's all different cases of that, but it's programmed to protect us. All right, that's why when something really bad happens, sometimes people just completely forget it. That gets blacked out in their brain. Now, guys, I don't think we understand this, but during COVID right now, this is it has a huge effect on our mental well-being. Mine works best for about 45 minutes, followed after learning slows down, and that's why our workshops, we do 45 minutes. I might have to go a little bit longer because I want to get the first part of this out, and then we'll do a second part where we go more into it. But yeah, but Amy, see, that's a great thing, yoga, and it comes to one of the points that I wanted to make is that you got to do something. Okay, how many people, and I know this is going to sound crazy, how many people haven't put like real clothes on? Now, I trade in shorts and t-shirt every day. I mean, that's my life because I enjoy it. Okay, but how many people haven't put a pair of jeans on and done their hair in a few weeks? Because there's just nothing else. No, I mean literally jeans. I mean, I haven't put on jeans to go out to do something. It's literally shorts and a t-shirt. But I want you to understand, see, that's great, but not everyone's like that. What happens is you fall mentally into this routine of having nothing to do. So what happens is you have nothing to do always. When you sit at your desk to start trading, what's going to happen mentally? What's going to happen mentally? Yeah, you're stuck in that I don't have anything to do. It's almost like you're going through motions rather than being focused. Okay, and one of the things, yoga is a great example. Okay, during times like this, you want to do something that gets you excited to get up. I don't care if it's weightlifting. Okay, go online, buy weights. The Bowflex ones aren't even that expensive. Go do something. Okay, go for a run. Read just something for yourself that actually gets you motivated to get up. Because how easy is it for this to cause a slump in our life? Or a golf simulator. Well, that's that's what I did, but yeah, but see, 100 push-ups a day, guys, is that going to get you motivated? Anyone here looking forward to doing 100 push-ups a day? Some of you might. I mean, Doug probably, but some of you might. But in reality, do something to get excited. Get up and do your hair, or get up and when I say do your hair, I'm talking about myself, because I literally haven't put gel in my hair in over a month. There's just no, you got to do something. You got to keep yourself mentally strong, whether it's building a puzzle, whether it's doing Sudoku, but keep yourself busy. One of the worst things that can happen is you sit there and watch TV for 24 hours a day. What happens when you watch TV for 24 hours a day? Okay, are you going to, although obviously not 24 hours, but let's say you just watch TV the entire time the market's closed. Are you really going to be motivated? Is your mind really going to be taking in anything, or are you going into that lazy mode? So we have to stop our mind from going into the point where it doesn't feel the need to absorb things anymore. We have to find excitement during these times. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in a slump, and nothing is going to change from that. Okay, so COVID, the fact that we're stuck inside has such a huge character, it's a big characteristic on what's going to be affecting our mind, because we're not doing anything. Okay, on top of that, if you're worried about COVID, let's say even, not a hypochondriac, but, so let's even say that you're worried about that. Let's say that you have a birthday coming up in the summer where you already had a vacation planned for. That's not going to happen. We have to find things to make sure that our minds are not going down the gutter and just going through the motions each day. Because when you don't go out of the house, you get stuck in a routine. So the routine that you get stuck in needs to be productive. Because if the routine that you get stuck in is not productive, what's going to end up happening is when this is over, the habit's going to be built already. Guys, how much work does it take to create a bad habit? It's effortless, takes no work whatsoever. Bad habits, the easiest thing in the world to start. How hard is it to break a bad habit? How easy is it to break? Well, 21 days if you're lucky. Very, very hard. Statistically, they say after 21 days of doing something consistently, and that doesn't mean one day you mess up, you start over again. You start over your new 21 days. And exactly, 21 days is optimistic, but it takes about 3 weeks, guys. So 3 weeks of constant refocusing. So is it easier to break the bad habit or not get into the bad habit in the first place? So what I was talking about before, less is more, guys. Take some days off. If you find yourself getting into that okay, anyone here ever sit there in the afternoon, and obviously anyone that's a trader has done this before. Anyone ever sit here in the afternoon, okay, and nothing is happening? Nothing. Nothing's moving. Everything's just going sideways. Okay, what ends up happening to your brain? Psychologically, how do you start to feel? What ends up happening? Yeah, you start daydreaming. Are you accomplishing anything at that point? Are we accomplishing anything? Are we getting screen time? Well, you start making up trades too, and that's out of the boredom, but we're not accomplishing anything. And that's literally what happens during these times. Is that we have to understand is that, when we're bored and we're sitting there, we have to find things to keep our minds continuously going, whether it's reading a book, whether it's creating a habit, whether it's doing your journals, in the chat room, for the people that are in there, whether you're going over the trade evaluations and breaking it down with everybody. You have to find something like that. Because the less is more is that sometimes, guys, like Oscar said before, after 45 minutes, you stop retaining a large percentage of what's going to be told to you after that 45 minutes. Okay, so we have to understand that 45 minutes, guess what? There's no reason to do 4 hours straight because we're not going to retain most of what happens afterwards. So we need to know how our minds work in order to best come out of this a better trader than we were before. watching classes, you should be. You should be watching class or however you trade. I don't care what, if you use indicators, you follow this person, follow that person, I could care less who it is. Okay. But you definitely want to put a lot of work into it, but you need to understand that after a while, guys, the outside influence of this is a big effect on people. So if you're just literally, if you're depressed, it's very easy to get depressed in a time like this because you can't leave your house. So if you're depressed, you're not going to retain anything. Give yourself a day to do nothing. Watch Netflix for an entire 24 hours. Who cares? Give yourself that time to reset your brain. Because if you don't, guys, I know I live in New York. This is going to be a lot longer than most places. My summer might be over. So if I don't start giving myself some time to mentally just kind of reset myself, what's going to end up happening? I'm going to get caught in a bad habit and just go through the motions. But I can anticipate that happening already, so I know how to stop it. And that's really where my main point comes from. All right. Make sense so far? Beautiful. All right, so many things you read right now will tell you since we are home, which we just went over, doing something when burnt out is, and that's the thing, and that's really just to kind of put up on it, is doing something when burnt out is counterproductive. At the end of an 8-hour workday, okay, how much gets done in the last hour? So let's say it's Friday, okay, you've worked 8 hours, so it's 9, right now it is 4 o'clock. You have 1 more hour left. How much work is going to get done? Now, for the most part, Fridays, nothing is going to get done. But that last hour is the most unproductive hour that anyone could ever be paid for because they're basically just waiting for the clock to end. Now, guess what? Is anyone here forcing you to trade? We have to work for money, but no one's forcing you to trade right now. Right? So if we get to a point where it's like, I said I'm going to watch 4 hours, but we get on the 3rd hour, we're done with 3 hours, and then we're coming on to the 4th. If we're burnt out, just stop. That last hour of the workday, nothing's going to get accomplished, just like that last hour of recordings is not going to accomplish anything. So you're literally wasting your time. You're better off doing something that makes you happy. Put on Netflix, build a puzzle. Doug will tell you to buy Legos, whatever. Doesn't matter what you're doing, something to make you happy that's kind of mindless, that takes your mind off of having to think about everything else. You need to mentally give yourself those breaks. Otherwise, what's going to end up happening is you are going to be burnt out. The COVID's going to end, and you're going to be in a worse position than you were in the first place. And that's the one goal every single person should have, is to come out of this with better than they were when it started. But that does not mean sitting there for 20 hours a day watching recordings, because it's going to be counterproductive. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? All right, so now we're going to get a little bit more into the trading parts of this. So during a time period of great trading opportunity, 90% of people want to get rich all at once. And we talked about this before a little bit earlier, is that this is not going to be the factor that changes everything about your life. Now, could it? Of course it could. Because if you went out there, let's say you got $100,000, you put it all into one stock and it went up, guess what? You might make a ton of money. But where's that money going to go? We just talked about it. Let's say you make $1 million tomorrow on one stock. What's going to end up happening if you don't really know what you're doing? Well, you're going to get cocky. You think you know what you're doing. And the market's going to show you very quickly that you don't. And it's going to take that money back from you. Okay? So, phone calls from friends on what and when to buy. We talked about this a little bit earlier as well, is that it just continuously happens over and over and over and over again. Let's talk about tops and bottoms psychologically. So when I get a phone call like that of somebody that asks me, what should I buy and when? What are they looking for? What are they looking for? Assurance, yeah, 100%. Well, they just want me to tell them something comes in, but they're looking for the bottom. Fast money. There you go, Lane. Fast money. They want to hit the bottom. That's what all these phone calls came from, is it the bottom yet? Is it the bottom yet? Is it the bottom yet? So that goes back to what we originally talked about. Psychologically, know who you are. If you've never traded in your life before, should you open up a brokerage account because of COVID to start trading? Think about it. No. Think about how stupid that sounds. But how many people here did it? Or how many people know a lot of people that are? Oh, believe me, I know. We're sponsored by TradeStation, so I talk to them, fairly frequently. And I can't tell you how many people are just opening up accounts, just putting money because they're taking guesses. That's called gambling. That is not how you consistently will ever become a trader. Okay, so the key to being a successful trader is consistency in your methodology and mental thought process. The best trading day, week, month, or ever, nothing can change. Okay, if you use, excuse me, if you use Prince, okay, and that's how you trade, okay, should anything change now that there's great trading going on? Well, it's the best thing in the world. Okay, every unfortunately, every winning trade has a loser. But you want to swim with sharks? Guess what? You got to be willing to get bit. But no, okay, nothing is going to change, guys. If you, let's say, you use a 200 moving average as your resistance point. I know a little bit about indicators, but I don't really. Obviously, I don't use any indicators. But if we 200 MA, if that's your resistance point, now that it's COVID, does that change? Is that going to change? No. Everything you did to get up to this point. Okay, we have to understand something psychologically is everyone wants to get rich. And I don't care what anyone says. No matter what, you see a stock that's running up. What's your immediate reaction? Mentally, what's the immediate reaction to do once a stock starts running up? Get in, chase it. Okay, because the stock is going to run. Well, guess what? Guess who knows that? Guess who knows every reaction as a whole that retail traders will make every time they do something? They've been doing this since, 17, whatever. We talk about the market makers. They know this stuff. So you cannot change what you have been doing before. Now, guess what? If you're a beginner trader, you don't know shit anyway. So you shouldn't be trading yet. You should be learning how to trade to be ready for the next COVID or the next whatever, the next situation that gives us an extended period of volatility. Okay, but your mental thought process, okay, and the actual methodology that you use cannot change. Okay, let's say you use indicators and I use Prince. Okay, I make a shit ton of money using Prince. Should you switch to Prince right now? Say you only make a little money using indicators. I make a lot of money using Prince. Should you switch right now? No, you'd be nuts. Because now you don't know what you're doing and you end up becoming a beginner and starting all over again. Now, obviously, if your indicators aren't really helping you and you're still losing money, well, then you should look for something else at some point. Now, depending on how the period of time that you've been doing it, but you have to understand this is that nothing can change during these periods of time. People see tons of volatility and think, well, what's the Holy Grail? What's the Holy Grail today? That all of a sudden I'm going to change my life. I'm going to buy a huge house. I'm going to make all this money coming in. It doesn't exist, guys. I promise you, psychologically, it does not exist. Okay, so we have to make sure that our mental thought process and our methodology, when times come, when we come into these type of times, do not change. Okay, the best trading day, week, month ever, nothing changes. You get the best trading day or the best trading week because you're doing things consistently the same exact way. Hope's not even scary. Hope's worse than drugs. It's the worst drug in the world. Because every time you hope, let's say we got into BNTX right now, okay, and we hope that it goes back up over 53. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter. The market's going to do what it is. Hopium. Terrible thing to have. Psychologically, when there's a lot of things to trade, we mentally want to trade them all. Goes back to knowing your level. That's another thing, guys. Okay, is understanding that when during these time periods, there's going to be 1,000 things to trade. How do we pick which stock to focus on? And this is going to be a very bare bones way of going about it, but how do we pick the stock we should trade if we're only trading one stock? Once again, if you're advanced, trade, go nuts. Do what your training has brought you. This is the best thing for it. What fits your game plan? That's simple. Does your game plan change just because of the fact that there's more stuff happening? Should your game plan ever change? No, you want to look for the things that will have the best range, okay, and may be able to make you the most. If you're only trading one stock, you want to find the thing with the best range, okay, best print pattern, best volume, easy, these type of things, but nothing changes. If there's I want you to think about it like this, and I know, I've talked to my students a million times about this, okay, but if you think about it, how many trades do you miss per day? The best trader in the world, how many trades are they missing per day? There's no number. It's like infinite. And there could be a billion different ones. It's going to happen. So in times like this, psychologically, it takes more focus with a better market than it does with a crappy market. So we have to know that. We have to anticipate to understand that if we're in a chat room and we have a stock that fits everything that we want, we have our show of hand, we have everything we need to trade it. If someone calls something else out, should we move to it? Or should we follow our game plan? What should we do? That's it. It's our game plan. We control when we click the button. We forget that sometimes. The brain is such a crazy thing, but we completely forget that we control Can anyone make you buy shares? Think about that. Can anyone go out there and make you buy shares of anything? Can anyone force you to sell shares? So you have some shares? Kramer, I knew some dumb hands. And of course it came from you, Doug. I knew some, but no one can make you do anything. So in reality, who is it that controls their entire destiny within trading? The only thing you have control of is what you do. That's simple. Now we know what should happen based off of based off your methodology. You might know what's going to happen. I know I personally know what's going to happen based off prints. Okay, but we know that we control this. So just because the time is 9:30 and the market's now open, can that change anything that I do as a trader? Can that change anything that I do as a trader? Nope, absolutely not. Time of day, nothing could change anything. I control the mouse. I'm holding it in my hand right now. See, look, I can make the mouse move like this. I can make this chart go out this way if I want to. I can do whatever I want because I am in control. So don't forget that. Okay, when things like this happen, you start getting really great trading. And then one of the biggest things is you're going to start to see on social media or in the chat rooms that you're in, I'm making this money, I'm making this money. Guess what? Is anyone else paying your bills? Think about that. Anyone else here going to pay your bills? Anyone here ever get a check in the mail because they made a good call out? Still waiting for mine. Never seen it. Doesn't exist. The only thing that we control mentally, we have to understand that is we can't let our minds start to run. We have to play our own game. Okay, and the second we start playing someone else's game, what's going to happen? The second we start playing someone else's game, what is going to happen? More than likely, they're going to take our money. It's that simple. So these are the things that you have to think about. Okay, let's go into the next point. There's a lot of things to share. Okay, just because the world, and just to kind of put on, on that point, just because the world has changed doesn't mean that your mentality should. Mentally, during these times like this, our mind starts to think about tops and bottoms. Why is that a problem? Which we already kind of went into it. Now we're going to talk about the giant elephant in the room that happens no matter what. I don't care if it's the morning. I don't care if it's during COVID. I don't care if it's the Great Depression. News is the enemy to your minds. News. Terrible, terrible thing to follow. So we just talked about, in order to be a successful trader during this time period, we have to follow our actual methodology. The methodology is what got us into this time. That's what keeps us to be a trader. Because at the end of the day, when you make tons of money, you'll be a trader forever. But if you're not making any money. Every day there's a little ticker, okay, that's giving you a little bit less of a chance to become a trader. That's why it's so important to find the right channels to learn how to do this correctly. Once again, I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not even going to give you a link after this because I don't care. Okay, but we have to understand. You have to understand this. News is the enemy of your mind. Okay, let your strategy determine what's going to happen, not an article or a reporter. So one of the problems we have, and I use this all the time when we talk about first to the table, okay, is that when, let's say we're at a buffet, okay, all of a sudden all the food's being put out, and we're at a wedding, okay, and I don't know why the wedding's having a buffet, but whatever, it doesn't matter, okay. But what happens when the food's all right and they say go eat? Does everyone all get up at once and run to go eat? No. What happens is that one person that had the balls to go out there and just go get their food creates everybody else to actually follow them. It happens over and over and over again. Any party I've ever been to in my life, it's funny because I sit there and I wait for it. I say, who's the person? Because you can tell a lot about the first person that goes to get their food. Okay, mentally, we want confirmation from someone else to match our thoughts. We all wanted to eat, right? We're hungry. Everybody wants to eat at that point. But guess what? We don't go until the confirmation of somebody else. How many reporters are good traders? Someone give me a number. How many reporters are great traders? Probably none. Anything be lower than 5%, I'll be okay with. Well, you know what? I've met a few journalists, Oscar, that really they love what they do. So even if they were a successful trader, they probably still would. But yeah, the percentage is probably less than 1%, if that. How many people on MSNBC are good traders? Well, it's probably less than 1% again. So what happens is we see news and we allow it to bias the methodology that has already proven true and successful. This is psychologically one of the hardest things for people to stop. Okay, anyone that's in as part of ATC, guys, when do I read my news? Do I ever know the news before the market opens? Ever? Do I ever talk about the news? Nope, never. I read at the end of the day. Because what's going to happen if some news article says let's say one news article says right now in BNTX that the stock's going to go to 30. Well, what's going to be in my mind? What's going to end up happening? So it's not even second guessing, it's influence. That's the perfect word for it. Now I'm influenced because I'm thinking, I'm using that as a variable. Guys, in tape reading, is news any variable? News can be a catalyst, which is one of the biggest catalysts of the earnings, and news are the two biggest catalysts of any type of stock to actually get a move started. But the news will not help me understand what's going to happen. Guys, how many people have seen an earnings report get crushed? And when I say crushed, they're way over earnings, way better, and then the stock tank. Mentally, how many of us here can interpret the news? Yeah, news lags the prints. Now, I want to make this completely methodology, any methodology you're using, these points will all happen. I'm not going to talk about prints. Like I said, I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to teach you about how your mind has to work. So overall, news, do not let news affect you. So news is almost always negative. So that's not necessarily true. Because what happens is if something is negative, okay, I want you to think about the psychology of a reporter right now. If something is negative, does anyone else want to hear any more negative news about COVID right now? Anyone out there want to hear that? Anyone going to turn on their TV right now because COVID is still going? No. But the one news that you might turn on is if they flip the switch. All of a sudden now, things are getting better, okay? And then you have, the percentage of people that are dying from it are going down. Guess who's going to turn that on? So you're 100% right. That 80-20 rule here is where 80% is negative, but when you have negative for too long, now positive sells. See how that works? All psychology. It's understanding the brain of the people that are doing it. Now, just to talk about tape reading for a second, tape reading is not about numbers. It's all about the psychology of the person behind the desk. What's their game plan? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to do? And the news is the same way. No one's going to read buy a newspaper with the headline, COVID's still here. But if you've been seeing COVID's been here for a month, and then all of a sudden that one day a newspaper comes out and there's a positive spin that now we're doing better, how many people buy that newspaper? So in reality, news is a business, just like anything else, and it does not help your trading. That's simple. You know what news is useful for? Is to find something to look at. But then after you find that thing to look at, what should you do from that point? What do you think? There we go. We make our own opinion with the methodology we have. And this is what I'm going to end on. Is mentally we want confirmation from someone else to match our thoughts. Guess what? Don't think. Stop thinking. Let your methodology do it for you. And that is the key to trading during times like this, is do not think. Anyone here a biochemist? Anyone here work for a pharmaceutical company? If you do, God bless you, and thank you for your work. But at the same time, okay, the methodology is going to tell you. You know, if someone's buying a ton of shares, the stock's going up eventually. So they're setting up for something. You know, if someone's selling a ton of shares, I'm still waiting for Oxy to just get destroyed. But we're not going to talk about that because we're not talking about trading. But don't think. Understand. From this workshop, what I want you to take out of this is understand that you can literally knowing yourself by knowing yourself within your head. And I really, know thyself. I'm really, I really mean that. If you know yourself, you can anticipate when you're going to have mental kind of psychology farts. It's the best way I can put them, where you kind of get caught in something you shouldn't have. But if you know that you as a person are susceptible to getting caught into that, you can stop it before it happens because you know it's coming. If you know somebody's, if somebody's coming after you and you know they're coming at exact time, exactly where, well, guess what? They're not going to get you. So it's the same thing with the psychology. And like I said, I'm going to end on don't think. Let your methodology do that for you. Rich, before we disband, can I ask a trading question, or would you prefer I wait? I don't want to be rude. I'm done. So I was just going to ask if any questions. Sure. Let's see, why not? Let's look. I wanted to ask week. I got to keep it short. Today, before we saw 3 prints. Okay, so 3 prints on the VXX. I want you to look at something. Okay, so 3 prints, that's a lot, because if you look at the actual print personality, there's nothing there. So today we saw 3 coming through the dark pool at 4. Okay, so yeah, this is way too advanced. I don't watch any of that type of stuff, so I wouldn't really be able to help you there. I'd actually have to be looking at right after we saw 1 million on a regular exchange, lit pool. Yeah, so one of the biggest things here is that you're right. Everything that you just said right there is way too complicated. I keep things so simple and how I go. So when you're talking about, I know what these mean. Your dark pools and your lip. You're getting very, very into things that don't actually affect how a trade's going to work. So let me answer the last question. Does it matter that someone trades through dark pools and some don't? I ask because sometimes the prints get reported many hours after and prints actually get filled. So dark pools, I'm going to tell you something right now. Dark pools mean nothing. Okay, mean nothing whatsoever, because the reaction can only come as the market as a whole until it's actually reported. So what ends up happening is the bigger prints that come through dark pools end up being levels. You're basically bullish above and bearish below. Obviously, there's way more that goes into it than that, but for the most part. So I ask because sometimes prints get reported many hours after. Can you help me understand large equity prints, 500K? Okay, so most of the time what's happening through those is that when someone trades any prints, usually 100,000 shares or above, they're going through a dark pool because of the fact it's broker to broker, it's Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan. It's going through these bigger players, and they're making side deals from the market. Now, as a market maker, does everyone know what the definition of a market maker is? I just to give you real quick. and we can, once again, in the chat, I do a class every Tuesday for all my students. If you're in the chat room, that I will answer any question that you have. But does anyone know what the definition of a market maker is? How do I become a market maker by definition? Well, so it's not someone that provides liquidity. Okay, you have to own both. You have to have 100 shares on the bid and 100 shares on the ask. So yes, the reason for that is to provide liquidity. That's what a market maker is. But you have to have 100 shares on the bid and 100 shares on the ask. That's literally what a market maker becomes. So what happens is that when you have a huge amount, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan can make a deal together. Okay, once you have 100 shares on the ask or 100 shares on the bid and you become a market maker, okay, you now have the ability to report certain executions within 24 hours of actually doing it. Now, let's keep it simple. Okay, anything that Goldman Sachs is doing with JP Morgan Chase, do I want to be involved in it? Or do I want to find something else that shows us something a lot easier? So really what ends up happening is that you use those as levels. If you look at like my print lines here, so you can see like right here on the VIX, you have 420,000 shares, 422 at 1030. So right here, this is gonna, as if it's below, it's gonna act as a resistance. It's gonna be bullish above. If it was coming down into it, it's going to be a support level, and then it's gonna be bearish below. So that's a really big, there's a lot. I mean, this question I could literally do an hour on. But just to kind of give you a little bit of insight with, no, there's nothing to be worried about. All right, guys, any questions on what we went over today? We all good? So is 10K on red a good trade strategy? You know what? You might get lucky. You might be able to make that to 20,000, but then when you lose your account, you don't get to play anymore. All right, guys, it was an absolute pleasure. Once again, my name is Rich Lepis with ATC. I will talk to the rest of my students in the chat, and happy trading.